Hello and welcome to Fathoms Deep, a Black Sails podcast from Common Room Radio. I'm Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
And we're at a great episode tonight. I'm really excited to get into this one.
I know. I've been waiting for this one.
One of my favorite scenes.
Well, now I'm curious which one is your favorite scene. Fascinating.
You won't be surprised once we get there.
Okay. Oh, no, I know which one it is. Never mind. We'll see if I guessed right. I'll tell you if I guessed right.
Okay, we'll see.
So yeah, I have a few things to bring up before we start.
Okay.
Everyone's been super interesting on Twitter.
Yes.
So let's start with Megan. Megan tweeted a bunch of stuff and we retweeted some of it. One of the things I loved was that she talked about, when we talked about last episode, how, you know, everyone and Ocracoke was being so raucous and Vane was being so still. She said that She really pointed out that, like, Vane really isn't still, generally. He's usually very active, and if not active, he is fidgeting. Like, remember?
Yeah, like playing with the coin.
Exactly. So I just really liked that detail about it. Like, he was truly still, and that's not something we see from him.
Interesting, yes.
The other thing she brought up about our question about whether Scott was saying to Maddie that the pirates were temporary allies and maybe not permanent allies, like that maybe he was insinuating that when we turn against them eventually. She pointed out what Billy said when they were on their way to the village. One person said, didn't we free a lot of the slaves on ships that we took? And Billy pointed out that we sold as many as we freed. And this is something that Scott would know.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting little, like, connecting the dots background thing.
Yeah. That
isn't stated outright really in connection to that conversation, but is a really interesting point. The second thing is Andrew Dice, in a little conversation we were having on Twitter, sent us a picture of the Black Sails cast under that Jack's book review of Woodes Rogers' book. And it says, I'm just going to read it real quick. Man takes to the sea to prove something to his parents, presumably, seeks adventure, finds the limits of his own capacity, loses everything in the process, and then stumbles on a hell of a story in the process. Which is kind of a description of all of our characters, and not...
That's pretty good.
Right? Not just our characters, but also kind of the Black Sails creators. So
kind of the creators. That's too fun. I like that.
So here's to you all of you. Yeah. All of our characters, all of our writers. Too. Yeah, it is a beautiful still. I think that was the promotional still for season 3, or one of them. And then, I wanted to bring up something that you and I talked about, which I thought was going to come up kind of organically here, but might not. So I just wanted to bring it up. Something you and I talked about after we were done podcasting was that Silver, just that it's very significant that Silver was working so hard to hide his vulnerability from everyone. And yet he talked about that with Maddie. Like, he chose Maddie as the person to actually be vulnerable about his needs and his pain and his need not to show that he's in pain. And then the last thing is something our friend Alistair Stevens is a little bit behind. He's trying to catch up, but he's a little bit behind.
He'll get there. Give him a chance.
Yeah. And he was talking to us about something that we talked about, I don't know when we did, ages ago, about the idea of Jack being kind of the heart.
Yes.
I wanted to bring this up in relation to our last episode as well, when we talked about how Max perhaps underestimated Jack, thinking that she could appease him with her little version of how he was going to be famous.
Yes.
And I think that this might tie into one of our themes back from that we've had ever since season 1, the idea that people who value relationships and people who value ambition and people who maybe turn away from their personal relationships for the sake of ambition. And it's possible that, we know that Max is that person. Like, Max is a person who chose ambition. She even said to Eleanor, like, I've chosen to be like you. And she's seen Jack so many times be vulnerable to Anne, vulnerable to the other prostitutes, vulnerable, not able to lead the island properly. And I feel like maybe that's part of the problem, is that she maybe underestimated how smart he is because she was looking at this kind of dichotomy of people who value emotional connection and people who have ambition, and she might not have understood. I feel like that might be part of the source. Like Alistair kind of reminded me that we had talked about Jack a lot in those terms, and that might be the source of why Max would underestimate him.
Wow. Well, that's brilliant.
It was just a thought. I thought that was going to maybe work its way into this episode, but I think not. So I decided to bring that up as well. All right. So the last thing I wanted to bring up that I just really love this. There was some love for last episode, the book review scene. And and Toby Schmitz joined in, and I just love this. This was his adorable take on this, that he said that Jack can barely handle the fact that Woods is published. And that he and Luke Roberts enjoyed the literary rivalry. So I just wanted to share that with everyone who's not on Twitter, because that's just crazy adorable. And I can totally see how Jack would be really, really jealous about Woods Rogers being published. Okay, so that's my very long preamble to this episode. So yeah, I'm ready now to talk about this episode.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so this episode is a bit messy by our usual standards, as far as, we often can group the characters very easily.
Right.
That's not really the case here. Almost all of it and almost everyone is in Nassau or in New Providence Island, but there are a lot of intersections. So we're going to go chronologically a little bit. I kind of have it structured where part of the time we're doing character pairs and part of it we're doing chronologically because, just everyone's interacting with everyone, kind of.
Yeah, it's true.
To a large extent. And, except, can I just say one thing? Except for Billy and Jack. And I retweeted as Black Sales Cast, a podcaster who I think podcasts about Doctor Who had been at some sort of con in Cardiff, where Tom Hopper was at a panel. And he said that one of his regrets about Black Sails was that he never really that Billy and Jack didn't really have scenes together, that he really regretted not being able to work with Toby Schmitz.
I bet.
I just wanted to, I just thought that was very sweet and adorable. So I just wanted to bring that up. Well, I guess Jack only is in a tiny bit of this episode. We have amazing Jack, but way too little Jack for my taste.
It's great Jack, but not much. Yeah.
All right, I'm ready to start if you are.
Yeah, let's jump into the characters.
Okay.
Prepare to board. Aye.
We're kind of going to group people a little bit.
Sure.
I would like to start with Max and Eleanor.
Yeah, they're great in this episode. And also, Max's necklace.
Max's
I
necklace
have
is
to
good.
say, oh my gosh, stealing the scene for the first few seconds, and I had to pay attention.
Yes, it is a really good necklace. Overall, someday, I don't know, maybe we can get Tim Aslan on with us. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, so that won't help, but would love to talk about the costume choices.
Yes, yeah, there's great work done.
It's amazing. Okay, so we start. Actually, I guess this is chronological because we do start with Max. We start with Max literally at a crossroads.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yes. Hello, Max. Here you are at a crossroads, and you're about to meet Anne, who's kind of the source of the big choices you need to make right now.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you see this. Yeah. You just see like from a distance and then close in, she is at a crossroads waiting for Anne. Mm-hmm. And then, this episode's hard for me and my love of Max. I mean, I still love Max, but I don't love Max's choices here.
Yeah.
So Anne comes to meet her and Max lies to her. And that's tough for me.
It is tough.
To watch.
It's tough to watch. No, I know. Yeah. It's a big change from the Max that we have grown to love. But it's true. We see that through this whole episode, this idea that once you get into a position of leadership and authority, that you have to make some really hard calls.
Yep.
And you have to, you end up basically betraying people.
Yep.
She comes right out and says that in that last conversation she has with Eleanor.
Yes, she does. So she does lie to her. The interesting detail is, because I was kind of wondering logistically, how all these meetups with Anne were happening. And Anne did mention, like you said, something when we were at the cave. So I guess maybe it is the same cave. Like maybe Max has known all along where Anne is, which is kind of interesting because they're trying to get the cash.
Well, she would know where the cash was.
Well, but isn't that interesting that they don't just go and take that cash?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Max is still kind of double dealing right now.
She sure is.
Right?
Good call. Yeah. I hadn't put that together.
I mean, Anne may have moved the cash, but again, if she knows where to find Anne,
then she knows where to find the cash. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. Well, again,
yes.
I mean, I think what this comes down to is maybe she even told Woods Rogers that she knows where Anne is, not necessarily cash, but how to find Anne. But Woods Rogers wants this all to happen quietly and peaceably so as not to lose the street.
Okay, yeah.
So there is that. I mean, that kind of explains why they would allow this idea. I mean, they know that Max is getting information to Anne. They want her to get information to Anne. So I guess we're just, they're going for the subtle intrigue approach. Max knows Anne, and I love when they're talking to Woods Rogers.
Yes.
And he says...
And Eleanor, yeah.
Right?
Yes, and Eleanor says she knows. She knows. Yeah, that was a really beautiful moment.
That was a really beautiful moment. Bittersweet.
I have to say, I love Eleanor in this episode. I never thought I would say it.
We should be tallying up the I love Eleanors because it started a few episodes ago.
Did it?
Yeah. I mean, you've been liking her more and more, but
well, I mean, I like her more and more, and maybe I might like love her in this moment or love this thing or love. But this is I don't know. Now I love Eleanor. I don't remember having said that before. Maybe I did. Maybe I said it before. Maybe it was the Scotch talking. The Scotch loves everybody.
You definitely said it last episode. You said the same thing. You said, I love Eleanor in this episode.
Well, I'll be darned.
I know, right?
Yeah. She's won me over.
Yeah, I love that. So yes, that is beautiful. And Max did look nervous when he said, how do you know? She did not. And then I thought about it. I was like, so there's a very good chance that Eleanor didn't tell Woods Rogers that she used to be in a romantic relationship with Max. I mean, this is just...
Why would she?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, unless it was helpful to him. I mean, and apparently he seems to take her at her word, so...
But still, that is a line that, he is still from civilization. Pirate self aside, he is from civilization. True. This might not be something, it was just interesting. It was interesting that she...
Yeah, you're probably right. I bet she didn't... Yeah, I bet she did not divulge that information.
Exactly. And she... Yep. So again, there are aspects of this threesome where everyone's hiding stuff from everyone else a little bit still. So, yeah, then we have our little game change where Spain wants Jack.
Yes.
And then,
which is so hard. Yeah. And I love Eleanor protecting Anne for Max.
Yes.
Gosh, that was so touching.
Exactly.
Yeah. She's changing so much.
Right. She really is. I wanted to point out something interesting about their interaction exactly related to that. So when Eleanor walks in, Max is very upset and says, I swore to her. And then she was going to ask Eleanor to do this thing that Eleanor had already done of protecting Anne. When she's first talking to Eleanor, when Eleanor first comes in, Max pours herself a drink and downs it, right? Mm-hmm. After Eleanor says that they had forbidden the soldiers to like instigate with Anne or hurt her if it can be avoided. And she says, I demanded it out of respect for your partnership. Mm-hmm. And that's the point where Max turns and pours Eleanor a drink.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And she's still kind of passes it to her very, like with her back to her, just kind of, it wasn't a very cordial invitation to drink together. But I just thought it was so interesting. But it was that moment where Eleanor, shows compassion towards Max, that Max opens a little bit up. Yeah. And then it's just a process during this conversation of like opening up and opening up and opening up.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of that in this episode too.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of that throughout this episode. Yeah. And the irony of that, the irony of the two of them kind of finding a commonality, a place to have respect and talk to each other again, that it was exactly in the context of Max talking about which would be worse for Anne.
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That the two of them who have chosen ambition over relationships were then discussing someone like Anne for whom there is a other half of self to lose.
Yeah. If it is even truly surviving, losing half of herself this way.
Right. But what an interesting thing for Max to be saying this to Eleanor. I mean, this is what Max would have happily been for Eleanor once upon a time.
Yeah. Wow.
I know.
You think so?
Yes, I do. I think that's what Max... I mean, again, we can debate whether Eleanor saw Max as... And again, this will come up very soon. We're about to talk about her conversation with Mapleton. Yes. No. I believe in the beginning of season 1 that Max was in love with Eleanor and would have happily... You know, she said, come with me. I got this money. Come with me. We will go... I mean, Max, when she started out... she was scrappy and smart and was always going to find angles, but she wanted the relationship more than she wanted anything else. The only reason she did that deal was that so she and Eleanor could go away together or be together. I guess only when it started blowing up did she want to go away together. But yeah, no, I totally believe that. I mean, I think that Max started this story that we've seen of her life wanting exactly to be in a beautiful romantic half of a whole. Yep.
Wow. It's so interesting because we see her now so independent and so autonomous and struggling with that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's really still against her nature.
There's a good argument for that. There is a good argument for that. Yeah. I mean, Max may be doomed to some extent to never be satisfied. Because she wanted the romantic relationship and she had obviously the capabilities to do the ambition thing.
Yeah.
And to some extent she always wanted that too, because we know her story about looking in the window.
Right.
But I think that Max probably had some vision once upon a time of, you know, maybe the two of them ruling Nassau together. Who knows? But who knows? I believe deeply that, again, Max wouldn't have done the things she did in season 1 if she was broken by what Eleanor did.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's really interesting for the two of them to be talking about the reality of someone who could lose their other half.
Gosh.
Yeah. And then they have the chair discussion.
I love that. One day when all is settled here, we should burn that fucking chair. That's a great conversation.
It is a great, and think about it, just last episode, like we had Eleanor coming in and like doing her whole, like, you don't know where to put that chair because of the light and you haven't been here long enough. Like the level of respect that they've gained for each other in this short time.
Yes. It's gone way up, hasn't it?
Well, and it's because they both recognize how much they're mirror images of each other right now.
And maybe how much they're both adapters.
Yeah. But, it's like we talked about when we talked about Eleanor being freed of this, that maybe part of what we're liking so much about her is Eleanor freed of the fucking chair, basically.
Of the chair, yeah.
Right. In short, she's freed of the chair. So that's allowing her to have the kind of compassion and partnership that Max used to have. She's kind of like she's really, they've had switched places, and we've had these two doing that a lot. I mean, we've had this a lot in the show in general. We had these two do it in the direction where Eleanor was strong and Max was weak, and then Max started getting stronger. And now in a way we're kind of like really seeing the reality of that they had switched places. But perhaps they're switching places also on the compassion side. That Eleanor can do that right now.
Yeah.
Because she's not the person in charge.
We have to get to that whole thing. Yeah, I'm waiting until we get to that scene.
We're almost there.
We'll get to there.
We're almost there. We're almost there. So Max really lays it out, and I love when she says this. She says, "How I hated you. I could never forgive you. In this moment, I am you." And about the chair, that it demands that you win partners and call them friends.
And call them friends. Yep.
That's hard to hear Max say.
It is.
And then to keep the chair, you have to break all of your relationships.
And remember what pride she said that with on that bridge that day when she was talking to Eleanor about it? And now she's actually learning the cost.
Exactly.
The emotional cost.
Exactly. Because it was easy. It was easy when she was the person not in charge, just the person with the partners and the ambition. Mm-hmm. That was a whole lot easier than actually.
Well, when it was people that she didn't really care about, too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think ultimately, it's the being forced to betray your own moral core. I mean, it's just it's not just specifically betraying your friends and former lover. Mm-hmm. It's betraying your own sense of honor. So it's something that I think would have bothered Max even then. She just didn't know that that's what was waiting for her, that was the price that would be exacted from her.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. And now she wanted into civilization.
Welcome.
Yep, exactly. Yes. And the crown is heavy.
Yes. Yeah, that was another really big theme from this episode. Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yep. So Max is feeling that, again, like what Maddie said to Silver. Max is feeling it. She was never prepared for it.
Not prepared. Uh-huh.
So then while they're sitting and drinking, once they are actually facing each other and actually sitting and having a drink together, that's when Max starts to tell Eleanor about the rumors about her, that she used to hear all the rumors from pirates, and now she hears all the rumors.
Now she hears them from soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she compares the governor's chair to her own. She said, I mean, it's a clear line. She's saying, look, lady, I just had to betray those close to me to keep my chair.
Yes.
You're the person closest to the governor. And so it's really interesting that was cutting back and forth between the two of them and Eleanor going to Woods Rogers.
Yes. So why do you think she went to Woods Rogers? I think we disagree on this, so it's going to be great. Go ahead.
I'm not sure we do anymore. Well, okay.
Oh, really?
Well, I think that originally, when I first saw it, when I didn't have any context and I hadn't seen the whole season, which I have now, but I'll try not to spoil. When I saw it the first time, I thought she was playing him.
Okay.
Now, I think I believe her. I think she actually means it. Or she could be playing it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, they still leave it a tiny bit open-ended.
There's a little bit, but I don't know.
There's a tiny bit of wiggle room still. I do think,
a little bit.
I do think that she actually loves him.
Yeah.
And I think they left us a little wiggle room.
I think that she didn't know that she loved him until Max started talking about that. And then suddenly she realized that for the first time, she's trusted. Mm-hmm. She's revered. Mm-hmm. She's relied upon. Her competence is being seen. She's being seen. That's my word, I guess, that I keep using. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why do I keep talking about this? Being seen and vulnerability and intimacy are like my new things that's like a kick I'm on, I guess. I don't know. Every podcast I do lately.
Well, they're also very important things to this show. I mean, those
to
are
this
really
show, to this
important.
particular episode. Yes. Yeah. But she goes into that room knowing very clearly, it just being spelled out for her, the danger and the risk. But I think that she can't help herself.
Oh, that's interesting. See, I saw it like, if everyone's already talking about this, if everyone already thinks it's happening, I might as well do it.
Oh, that's fair too. That's Eleanor also. Yeah.
Because she wanted to. I mean, we know she wanted to.
Yes. Well, I want to talk about the whole way that they did this scene.
I do too.
Okay. All right. So she walks in there. He immediately is in a state of much more undress than we have seen him. So we already know that she is catching him unawares, that he's caught off guard and is vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
So, and he looks it. When she comes in, he's not quite sure why she's here, but when he stands up, he's pretty sure, doesn't know if he trusts her. And then when she kisses him, she goes to undress him.
Yep.
And he stops her because he does not trust her. So she first begins to undress herself to make herself vulnerable. And then moves his hands to her laces,
Yep.
lets him make her the vulnerable one. And then after that, then he can meet her in that vulnerability. Then he can take off his own shirt. This is one of my favorite sex scenes I've ever seen done. This is beautifully done. I'm very moved by this entire scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really lovely. It's incredibly lovely. It's very romantic, I think. Afterwards, when she's so nervous facing the other direction and says, if you don't say something, I'm going to have to. I have never seen Eleanor look that vulnerable.
Well, but also, did you notice you saw her breast when you first come into that scene? And right when she says that, she covers herself up. When she says that if you don't say something, she actually pulls the covers over herself.
She even does that.
Yep.
Oh, that's lovely.
So my question for you, yes, it is beautiful. I really love how this is directed, I think, and acted. It's completely silent
this is
up
the
until that
best
point.
I've seen Hannah New.
Yeah.
I mean, she nails it.
Yeah. No, they both do. It's so, you can see every emotion going through their minds, that all the everything you just said, all the questioning, all of the like flow of figuring out what this means for both of them and what they actually want is completely expressed in their emotions, in their actions, in their faces. It's incredible. The thing I wanted to bring up before, and then we'll talk about their conversation. But the thing I wanted to bring up is a conversation we've had before about how sex is portrayed in Black Sails. So we had, I especially have been this big talker about how when James and Thomas were together, that was the only time we saw
romance.
Romance language, the visual language of romance, whereas all of the other sex was not really that.
Not romantic in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Not romantic in that way. Like, has varying levels of, intimacy and romance or not romance or, dissatisfaction, all sorts of things. But the choice to use the cinematic visual language of romance had up until this point been reserved for James and Thomas.
Yes.
This is what makes me realize that this is actually a romantic moment. Or they're totally fucking with us, one or the other. But like, no, because I mean, I don't know if I noticed it in this way in past viewings, but since we've gone through this whole, almost 3 whole seasons in the podcast, and we talked about this a lot in relation to James and Thomas, it made me realize this is the second time we're seeing that language. Like very, very deliberately. The way she undresses, the way she walks to the bed, the taking off of the stockings. Like, it's just really, we're really touching on, not to make it be like just tropey and not real feeling, but I'm just saying but they did make the choice to actually use language we've seen before. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what to make of that. We're gonna have to, like, I don't know. I don't have an answer.
I buy it. I'll tell you that. I think it's lovely, and I buy it.
So I feel like on that level, they're actually promoting this romantic relationship as true, like true. I mean, again,
absolutely.
For me, nothing's as true as James and Thomas, but but quite true.
Yes, fair enough.
So I feel like that's definitely what they're telling us.
Yes. Yeah. And I think maybe it's just because she's such a double crosser.
Right.
That they used this, that they went a little more heavy handed with it.
That's
just,
possible.
Just to help us see.
To help us understand.
Yeah. Yeah. To see that it's true. I sure hope so anyway, because I think it's lovely. I like them together so much. Again, and I love Eleanor here. And afterwards, when she says, if you don't say something, then I'm going to have to. And then he shows weakness. He shows fear and his vulnerability about these men and leading these people to their death. And again, that heavy hangs the head that wears the crown.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's also very vulnerable when he says, you're one of them. Like, I still, even now, don't feel that I can trust you.
Yep.
And Hannah New just breaks my heart here when she says it was that way once, but I do not wish it to be that way ever again. I'm resolved to have my word mean something, and I give you my word. And this whole speech is wonderful. And then when she can't say it, she can't say I love you, so instead she kisses him. Oh my God.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Right. And she points out, she said, this isn't because my life hangs in the balance. This isn't because...
Yeah.
And then she can't say why it really is.
She can't say it.
Yep.
But she can say it because sometimes you say things with your body, and that's all right.
That is totally true.
Yep.
I think that, I don't know if we ever disagreed on what was going on here. I think the disagreement was whether or not we like it for the story.
Oh.
That was where the disagreement...
Do you not like it for the story?
No, I think I do now. I think I didn't in the beginning. This is...
It's so lovely.
Yeah, this is definitely going to come up in our season 3 wrap. Hi, Lauren. We will talk about this in the season 3 wrap.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't, and now I do. And I can't really put my finger on why that is, except to say that just this process of watching so closely and you and me talking once a week about the show has made me see things differently, which is a blessing. Yeah, and I love that.
That is, absolutely.
And that's all I can say is I can't really say like why I like it now. But I do. I actually like their relationship. It works for me now. So that's great.
I'm so glad to hear that.
I am too, to be honest, because, anything that makes me love things more about my favorite show is awesome. So we'll talk about Rogers and Flint on the beach. I actually want to end with that. But I did want to talk about how the plan forms. I just thought it was interesting. Like they hear, they find out about Silver's visit, which we will also talk about very soon, but not yet. And then, Hornigold's like, I will go make everyone not be waiting on that beach. I know Hornigold. He's just really desperate for Rogers to like him. It's like he's got no standing here. With Woods Rogers has Eleanor and Max. Who is Hornigold in that? He's got the two powerhouses, and they show it in this scene because Max is like, okay, I'm going to do the counterintelligence. I will make sure that the right information is going to everyone.
Yes.
And then Eleanor is like, yeah, I got you covered. I got your strategy ready for you. And that was her strategy.
It was.
And it was brilliant. I mean, Rogers knew what needed to happen. He knew that no one needed to be waiting on that beach, and that he needed to not look like he was afraid of anyone waiting on that beach. That part he got.
Right.
But Eleanor...
like how to actually execute it. And gosh, Flint was so impressed. And I loved that. I love that sly grin. Oh. And especially when he says, clever. It's great.
Hold on to that.
I know I'm jumping ahead. I can't help it. I like this show, okay?
I know you do. I do too. But the Flint and the Woods Rogers, that is a gorgeous scene that deserves its own attention.
Beautiful. Okay, fair enough.
But meanwhile, let's go back to our Eleanor and our Max switching places topic, because when Max is in the brothel. Okay, and I just wanted to point out, I'm not really talking about the plot stuff. So, Featherstone walked in on them. Featherstone is upset. Featherstone runs into Vane. They start with a plan. Right. Featherstone tries to enlist Adele in it. I love, watching Adele during this. This isn't the topic of Max and Eleanor, but watching Adele during this scene in the brothel is very important. She's already has the seeds of, maybe they're lying to all of us. And then Max brings Mapleton in, and Adele is pissed off. They're all I was just really interesting to watch all of the different women's reactions. But it seems like they're the ones who don't know who Mapleton is because they're probably new, and then they're the other ones who are just when they heard her voice, you just get a whole lot of you're joking.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like, this for a lot of them, especially Adele, who's been Max's kind of right-hand woman, this is a huge slap in the face.
It is. Although it's true, Adele, kind of a blunt instrument. Yeah. She's not as good as Miss Mapleton in those ways.
Yes.
She's just not devious.
No, of course. But, yeah, well.
Loyal. We love her.
We do.
But,
We adore her.
Yeah.
We adore her. And we're going to, well, I'm going to, in the next few episodes, adore her a whole lot more. So, yeah, Mapleton to Max. Wow. She's like a snake. That woman is a snake. But
Yes.
she's a smart snake.
She's a very smart snake. Yep.
And she uses the word wait. She says when she comes up to Max and says, you know, would you like the advice that I gave to Miss Guthrie back when she was in your role?
Right.
She knew about the weight of authority and the awful compromises. If anything sums up Max's situation right now, she's all about that heavy crown and what it's making her do. And it just kills me. Like, she's so right. She's like, anyone who's tending to your needs.
Yes.
Hello, euphemism. If anyone's tending to your needs.
Yeah, but I think actually that covered quite a lot when she talked about tending to your needs, because I think
That's true. It's not just sex.
It's not just the sex, although it is very interesting how when we are lacking intimate relationships in our lives, we turn to sex.
Yeah.
Even though it's not the same. It's really quite a pale shadow of what the actual intimacy is. But it does
It relieves stress,
provide some comfort and relieve some stress. Yep, it sure does do that.
Yes.
It tends to those needs.
It tends to some of the needs, for sure.
Some of the needs, yeah.
So she says that anyone who's tending to your needs will ask for more than they can give. This is just evil what she says then. She says, best to make sure anyone you choose to tend to you, all you owe them is a fee.
Is a fee, which was absolutely a cut to her about what she was to Eleanor.
Yep.
Ugh.
I know, right?
I know. Yeah, that was a hard one. Mm-hmm.
Well, now we know why we got to see Eleanor handing off those coins.
Yep.
After visiting Max.
Mm-hmm.
Again, doesn't mean Eleanor didn't have feelings for Max.
No, I mean, yeah, feelings are going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
No matter what you're trying to keep in check. Yep.
But I think we have said this more than once before, that fee kind of put that amount of separation that...
It helped her to compartmentalize. Yes, it did.
Exactly. Yeah. Not for nothing that Mapleton chooses her a dainty blonde.
Uh-huh. Good call.
I do not think that's an accident.
Yep, she was cute.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like, remember when Max said to Vane, like, I found the way to not think about her? What did she say? The way to not think about her anymore?
Yeah. Gosh.
Yep. That's all really interesting and going to get more interesting. Yeah, what is it? John Steinberg said something at the panel at New York Comic Con. He said something like, somebody asked a question about Eleanor and Max, and he said, oh, well, in season 4, you know, things are going to happen that are very meaningful in their relationship, and everyone freaked out in the hall.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember if it was Jessica Parker Kennedy or Hannah New said, you do understand, like, he just told you nothing.
He told you nothing. Yep, it's true. Mm-hmm.
That could mean anything. That was really, it was funny because, you know, everyone's dying to know what's going to happen with these two.
Yep. Oh, it's so exciting.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's move on now to our prison cell. And let's talk about Rogers and Rackham.
Okay. Again, I love these two together so much.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, it's incredible.
And someone, was it Kim who pointed out, was it Quick Click Clark?
Yes.
Who pointed out to look for the scar?
Yep.
They really had that scar in sharp relief when he said, I will not be casted as its villain.
Right. And they did. They switched angles.
Uh-huh.
Kim, score one for you. Like,
Yep.
they did. I totally was paying attention, and they were angled the whole time at the non-scarred side of his face until that last line.
Yep. It was excellent.
Yep. It was totally excellent. Okay. So Rackham talks about how this is almost over. And then he says that Anne was disturbed. Mm-hmm. Jack knows immediately what that meant. And then, you know, I just love the two of them sparring. Like, they both are like foreseeing each other's moves.
Yeah.
And Woodes Rogers says, yeah, I know you were counting on me not having any options because I was going to have to keep the street happy. But, you know, got myself a little workaround.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just pictured Woodes Rogers saying that, got myself a little workaround, and it made me really happy.
We'll have to see if we can ever get Luke Roberts to say that for us.
Sure, why not?
And then he says, no one was harmed. This kills me. Jack is so brilliant. Mm-hmm. And then, right, he says, there are many dangers. The one I will resist to the limits of my ability is to be cast as the villain.
Yep.
And then Jack says, do you have a wife? And he lays this out so beautifully. He says, you know, or actually, I think I wrote the whole thing down.
Great. Yeah, I would like to hear it again.
I abridged it a little bit.
Paraphrase it, sure.
How would she feel if the only way to save you from suffering is to betray your trust and then to find out that it was based on a ruse? Mm-hmm. Oh. And then he says, and no one was hurt. Yeah. He's right. He's totally right. Yep. And then he says, we're all villains in Nassau. Mm-hmm. Don't think because you're new, you're any different.
Yep.
And that's
I love that line.
And that's when we see Woodes Rogers' other side of his face.
So good.
Oh, man. Jack, you're so right. You're so right. Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot to say about this other than it's so beautiful and so powerful and so correct.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is just Jack. He tried to win the duel. Mm-hmm. And there's too many factors working against him right now. Oh, Jack.
He'll be all right. Don't you worry about Jack.
Okay, I won't.
He's scrappy.
He is scrappy. Okay, that's really all I have to say about that, other than it's awesome. And Jack's correct. And my heart breaks for Jack and Anne because I just want them to be happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm ready to move on to our Walrus Crew Plus. If you are.
Yeah. I love my Walrus Crew.
I know you do. I love that the Queen starts out when she's meeting with all of them. The first thing she says is, Jack Rackham? Who's Jack Rackham?
I didn't notice that, but that's great. Oh, she is so good. I love her character. She's so fierce.
She is so fierce. And I love the way Flint talks to her.
He has so much respect and deference to her.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not sure there has been anyone that we've seen him talk to the way he talks to her.
That's a good call, which is probably still part of his being really good at manipulating people.
Of course.
That's the only way he's going to get anything from her. Yeah. At the moment he tries to talk down to her, it's over and done.
No, of course. Although I don't think he would have an urge to do that. And I think he
I think he does respect her very much. He always respected Scott very much. And now even more so.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's, I mean, I'm sure, again, Flint will always make good choices, but...
Did you say Flint will always make good choices?
I mean, okay. Sorry.
That amused me.
Let me amend that. Flint will always make good choices about how to talk to someone.
To get what he wants.
Get what he wants.
I understand. Okay. Now we're there.
Yeah. Right. No, I did not mean that Flint will always make good choices.
Good. Damn it. Alistair Stevens. Okay. It's fine.
Just for anyone who doesn't know who Alistair Stevens is, he's our friend. Liz just used one of his verbal tics.
It's true. Yep. It happens.
Everyone should listen to the podcasts of Story Wonk because they're fabulous. Mm-hmm. And because you will soon be saying good also.
It's true.
Okay. So, right. So she's like, wait a minute. You told me you needed a fleet. Now you brought nothing but him and a story about some money.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone's ever talked about Vane quite that way before.
Poor Vane.
I know, but I kind of love it that she did. And I even more love that Vane just like jumps in. He's like, not money, bait. He's like,
yeah.
He's like, hello.
He really has gotten just so much smarter and sharper. He's, yeah, his character arc has been gorgeous.
Right. He's like, hello, Queen. You didn't know me before, but I'm Strategy Vane now, and you're going to listen to me.
Strategy Vane. I like it.
Yeah, and he just knows his shit. He's just like, there's some intelligence nobody understood but me because I know that Rackham has those jewels, and Governor's in a hard place because Spain will burn down Nassau. Therefore, if we find that cash, we dictate what comes next. Again, back to what you said last episode. The guy who's like, give me my future in my hand right now. He's like, let's talk about a giant box of treasure as something we're going to use as a strategy point, not just to have the treasure.
Uh-huh.
Oh, my God.
It makes me really happy.
I know.
Yeah. I love him. He's come a long way.
He has come a long way. Oh, man. I know. This Vane. All veins are good veins. This vein is especially good vein.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she clears the room. So it's just her and Flint then.
Yeah, I really wanted her to say, give us the room.
I know.
Okay.
I felt for you, actually, when she said that. When she didn't say, give us the room.
And that, that's probably more of a...
maybe it's more of a
Nassau
civilization
thing. But it's more, more of a, right. It's in the boys' camp, so not at her camp.
Maybe when Scott said it 2 episodes ago, or was that last episode?
That's right, Scott did say it.
He did say it, and so maybe he's just been like waiting for years to say it.
I like that. I've been waiting. I want to say it.
Right. You can say it anytime you want, Liz. You'll be like, talk to the toddlers. You'll be like, toddlers, give us the room.
Not quite the same effect, but yes.
No, not exactly. Okay, so then she has some really practical questions. That woman, she knows her shit.
She does. She is so impressive.
She knows military strategy. I'm just going to assume, it's the library. She's just been reading.
Well, and they didn't even have to explain. He just said here. Right. And she knew the advantage of the terrain. Like he didn't have to spell that out for her at all. She knew exactly what was going on. She's whip smart.
Right. Well, look at this amazing jungle of booby traps that she had created.
That's true. Good call. She knows what's up.
Oh yeah. She knows all about guerrilla warfare.
Mm-hmm.
So but I just love that she's like, really practical question, and each time he says, I don't know yet. Really practical question. I don't know yet. And then he just keeps doing that. And she's like, I'm not going out there with I don't know yet.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And which he understands. He knows. He knows it's important to be able to bring your people, as a leader, bring your people something that they can digest.
Mm-hmm.
But then he says what she needs to hear. He says he's not certain about anything other than the fact that the odds will never be better for us.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what she needs to hear.
Yeah. Well, she has, she understands you're either going to do this or you're not going to do this.
Yes,
if you're going to do it, you have to do it. And she doesn't like hearing that. I mean, she does that really big sigh, but you
got to look for your window and you got to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when she sits back down at her desk and she says, fine, we're doing business again. And I just love this when she talks about the stockpile.
Yes.
And you see them coming up to the boat. You see Billy get on the boat while she's talking. And she says, she says that she's going to need to send the next best thing to her husband because he can't do it. And then she says, I know that a captain has unquestioned authority in battle. And this is our battle as much as yours.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, my word and yours will govern in concert or not at all.
Which is so great.
She's amazing.
Yeah. She is amazing. Mm-hmm.
She is so his match.
Yes.
Then you see Maddie come up on the ship.
Uh-huh.
And she looks up at Flint and they do this very subtle nod to each other. And
Mm-hmm. Yep. And she says, when I'm not present, that word shall be given by my daughter. And it's just gorgeous. These are 2 excellent, excellent women. I love these 2 just super heroic women. Oh, they are so great.
I know.
And they just command respect. And they are so competent, so, what did we call her? Regal. Yes. Yeah. God, they're wonderful.
Yeah, they truly are wonderful. I love them very, very much.
I like to see Silver watching Maddie.
I know, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. God, I ship them so hard. Looking forward to that. Yep.
Yes, so we can get to the strategy meeting. So we're in the captain's cabin, and and we have this scene I could watch a million times and still,
Yep.
I literally right before we sat down, I watched it and still saw new things. That
Oh, really? See, I'm so jealous of that because I'm still
sorry.
just going through.
I'm
No, it's
sorry.
okay. It's fine.
But yeah, okay. Well, I will tell you a lot of my insights about it from just like,
Okay.
This was actually the episode when in one of my rewatches before we ever decided to do this, this was the episode that made me say, okay, I'm going back to the beginning and I'm going to watch Billy's reactions to everything. And that's why a lot of the things I've said about Billy throughout
Yes.
are based on that rewatch. Like this whole...
Right. Well, I remember you talked about him being a kingmaker.
Right.
And that's exactly what I thought of in
Right.
this scene. I wrote
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. Billy, kingmaker, ghost storyteller. He is learning. And he's still very much behind the scenes, but he's
starting to find his strength with it. This is, I think, the first moment. Like, he has been a kingmaker from the beginning, but I feel like, especially, from the first episode when he,
Right.
when he's with Flint and then, the whole thing
Yep.
with the page and
with the blank page. Mhm.
Right. But back then it was like happening to Billy.
Yes. It was very reactionary.
Right.
Uh-huh.
He was the kingmaker because he had the respect of the crew.
Yes.
This is the first time we see him actively take that role.
Yes. Like he's really steering
Right.
this.
Right. And that was the moment. That was it. Was watching him, he talks in this, but we also in this episode, his reactions to Flint and Silver are very powerful and very important to watch. So anyone who's listening, if you have the urge to go back and rewatch this episode to watch Billy, go do that. Because
Yes.
that's going to be really important for the rest of this season and probably
If I
season
have to
4.
go back and watch Billy really hard, then
You
I
know
guess
what?
I will.
Go right ahead. Enjoy it. Knock your socks off, Liz. So yeah, but this was the one where I did a watch of all of the seasons where I really focused whenever Billy was in the room. I focused because often he isn't the person talking. But
It's
I
true.
focused
Yeah, he does
on-
a lot lot of reacting.
Yes, just watching
A lot of listening.
who he's watching, how he's reacting
Yeah.
to what he's hearing. Yep. Yeah, Tom Hopper. Love you. You're
Yep.
doing great.
Love you.
You're amazing. This is where Billy comes in. Flint's like, you do this, you do this, you do this. And then I love
Yeah.
that. And he's like, okay, and Billy and I are going to go do recruits. And Vane's like, why would you want to recruit these assholes who turn their backs on us already? And
Right.
Flint's like, well, I need them to be afraid, so they'll be afraid to fight against us. Like, we are going in with like full-on message of fear and dread. And that's where Billy has that great ghost storyline, which I wrote down.
Yes.
He says it shouldn't be you. If you're going for fear, he's like, I understand your plan, but if you're going for fear,
Right.
it shouldn't be you. No ghost story I ever heard started with the ghost introducing himself.
Yep.
And he's right.
He's so right. It's so smart. Yep.
And again, I want to call back to the last episode where he talks about a story. We may not have known this about Billy because he wasn't putting himself forward in that way.
Right.
But Billy has an understanding of storytelling. Even though he's not Silver. He's not the
Yeah.
person, he's not Flint or Silver. He's not the person out there like telling these great stories and being, charismatic and bending people to his will, but he understands it.
Yeah.
I know. This is
I
this
like
is
it.
a side of Billy we haven't really seen because he just hasn't chosen to. Maybe he hasn't chosen to use it. Maybe he didn't. He just is now starting to find his
Yeah.
confidence about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's part of his character growth.
Right. And so I love it. He also says, if you insist on your own fearsomeness, you might do more damage than good.
Yep. And he's totally right.
And I just want to point out, this is kind of what Silver was saying in the beginning of this season when he was trying to convince Flint to stop being on the raids to the towns. Mm-hmm. And Silver was kind of saying the same thing. And Flint was like, no, no, no. But this time, Flint listens. And so he says, well, who then? And then Billy says, him. He says, he's kind of the best person at this. And then he looks down at his leg and says, and will have the most impact.
Yeah. And it's so true. I mean,
Poor Silver.
I feel bad for Silver, and Silver, notices that dig.
Yeah.
But it's also very accurate.
Well,
and boy,
right.
howdy, does he ever use that
Oh,
leg
my
to his
goodness.
advantage.
Oh, my goodness.
Makes himself a legend.
Yes. And he says before that, I mean, he laughs to himself. He said, no one will be able to take their eyes off the one-legged creature.
Yep.
And then this is where the shift, there's a moment, there are a few shifts that happen here that are really like huge, like earthquake level shifts happening, even though they're very quietly done. When Silver says that, and then De Groot comes in and says, we're at land, Silver looks at Flint, and Flint gives him like the tiniest little like micro nod. And that's when Silver takes over and says, make ready the launches. I will lead the shore party. Like he did ask permission. Or at least asked for Flint's blessing.
Right, for the blessing, yeah.
Yeah, but he got it. And that was Billy's doing.
Yeah.
And then I feel like there's a moment then where you see behind Silver, when he says that, they then change the focus. So you see Billy's face, and it's an interesting face he makes. Like right after Silver, and Silver's voice changed even a little. Like when he said, make ready the launches, this was a different voice. And it's a voice that Silver will use for the rest of the episode. It's not our usual. It's like deeper. It's sterner. It's a little scary. He's less like.
I see what you're saying. He's starting to put on that pirate persona. He's
exactly.
starting to build the
It's
legend of himself.
Right. It's just like I felt like it was like Flint putting on his jacket. Like it was
Yes.
like mantle adopted.
And
And then the focus changes, and you see Billy, and Billy seems unsettled. He's not happy. Like. So it's interesting. Like, is he unsettled?
Wonder if he knows he's creating a monster.
Right. Is he unsettled because Silver's kind of scares him too?
Yeah.
Is he unsettled because he's afraid of what he just did? Like that he just had the power to shift Billy just really deliberately shifted the power in that room. So maybe he's a little freaked out with himself. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I wait a minute. I'm not supposed to be able to do that. I'm just like nice guy Billy Bones. It's just a really interesting look. And I feel like it could be interpreted a few different ways. And all of them are some level of dread on Billy's face. Then they go into Nassau and we have this tavern scene, which is the most haunting scene.
It's amazing, though. It's so cool.
It's incredible.
The show just took on a whole other... I think the tone shifted with this.
Everything
scene.
shifted. The ground shifted. The sands shifted. The ground shifted.
Sand shifted,
Everything shifted in this scene. This scene. Yeah. This is it's a big deal. Okay, so I find Silver's language, before we get to the part that we're, everyone's waiting for us to talk about. I thought that it was interesting language. And I think this might be the scene that made me say a few episodes back, like talk about Silver as the prophet.
Yes, I was going to say it was very biblical language again. Yeah, it really was.
And he is, basically, I am the mouthpiece of this,
Yes.
scary being that you can't see. Like, he's really channeling, I think, all of the feelings he ever had about Flint as deity.
Yes.
And using them for rhetorical purposes here. Right, because he says, he talks about, cowards who are begging forgiveness from a king, but he's like, yeah, my guy, way less forgiving than a king.
Right.
And he said, I'm on a mission of mercy for a path to forgiveness.
Yep. Yeah. It's very Old Testament prophet. You're totally right.
It is big time. Also, I love when someone says Flint's dead. He says, not anymore, he's not. Which I think that really calls back to that thing about when they thought I was alive and when they thought I was dead.
And making it a ghost story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Totally ghost story. That doesn't come up in a future novel that this is all based on. And he talks about the book and redacting the names.
Right.
And then Dufresne shows up.
Ugh, Dufresne, I just hate that guy.
Well, it's okay because he dies now, so you don't have to hate him anymore after this.
Like the best, most awful way, too. Oh, gosh, was that ever graphic and awful and also just completely cool, right? I mean, that was cool.
And I love that Dufresne's first attempt here is to say a threat as weak as fear my name. You would think that Dufresne, okay, first of all, Dufresne, he knows these guys and their whole thing with the power of story, one. So this, like, maybe he's trying to do that or he's poo-pooing, but poo-pooing the like power of story given his own experiences,
right,
seems pretty not smart. Also, fear my name from the guy who took the ship from Flint and then, like, lost half of his crew because another captain said, "Are you him?"
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
If anyone should understand how important...
Maybe he's still sore about that, though. Maybe that's why.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he's extremely sore. It's just the irony of his first attempt here is pretty strong. And then he says something that actually is quite true. He says, "Contented men have short memories." And truer words. That is just a reality of the real world. That is so true. And then he insults Silver. He says, "Even whole, you were unworthy of half the attention we paid you."
Yeah. Ugh.
And
gosh, he's such an asshole.
He's such an asshole. But I do want to bring up the fact that a lot of these people don't know who Silver is.
Yeah.
A lot of these people, even if they knew Silver...
That is true. Yeah.
It's very possible that they hadn't seen him since before he lost his leg. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, gosh, he looks so different. I went back to watch one of the from season 2.
Yeah.
And gosh, Silver looks so different, even mid season 2.
Yep. So think about, or even end of season 2. So think about, all these people in Nassau. They show this beautifully when Rogers and Eleanor and Max are there, because like Max is like, Silver did that. She's just like, she seems like she can't believe that John Silver would have done this thing.
Yes.
This is the thing we have to, like, we know where Silver's been in the last few episodes, but Nassau doesn't. Nassau's still like, wait, isn't that pretty boy sweet talking guy? They don't know who Silver is now.
That's so crazy. Yep.
Right?
Well, yep.
And now we get to the killing of Dufresne.
Curb stomp.
Oh my
God. I mean, like the curb stomp that shook the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's horrible. It's graphic.
And so unexpected. I remember the first time
so
I
unexpected.
saw it.
Yes, so unexpected. My closed captioning said squelching noise, and I was like, "Yep,
that's gross." Okay,
it was gross, but awesome.
Yes, and then the thing I most want to talk about is the part that I'm haunted about.
Yeah.
Is the stomping's one thing. Like, the stomping's interesting because, he's stomping. We know he's been in a lot of pain in that leg.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I swear I felt the pain, not of Dufresne's head, but of Silver's leg when he did that.
Absolutely. And I just felt like this is the perfect illustration of Silver's sacrifice and the consequences and why he has that leg in the first place was to save his men. I mean, it just felt like it all came together here, that he lost his leg to save his men. He's in pain because of that.
Yeah.
To save his men, to be a leader, is what's been bringing him into this darkness. So for him to be doing the darkest act he's done to this point, and in order to do that, he feels the pain the whole time of the leg that he lost out of a benevolent care for his men.
Wow, yeah.
It's all tied together in this one moment, and it encapsulates every single aspect of Silver's transformation in this one act. And then on the other side of the act is actually the part that's most haunting for me. It's not the stomping.
Yes. Oh, no, of course. I completely agree.
It's when he goes from that heavy breathing and he calms himself and he brings his breathing back down to normal, and then he looks up. Every single time. It does not matter how many times I watch this. I have watched this so many times this week, and I tweeted it, and I have watched it so many times before that, and I never turn away because I am in awe of this moment where you see he is transforming. He is transforming before our eyes.
Yeah. Ugh.
I mean, Silver of last episode.
Yes.
I can't imagine him doing this and then willing his breath to become calm so that he can continue to speak with a calm, authoritative voice afterwards. It's terrifying.
Yeah. Gosh, it sure is. And just sauntering back out of that bar.
I know.
Jeez. A little bit of a limp now.
Yep.
And still holding that huge, heavy book. Doesn't pass it over to Billy, but carries it out of there himself. Even when they meet out on the street and he sees Maddie. And I love this too. Maddie says, "What happened?" And he doesn't say, "It's fine," or "It was nothing." He says, "I'm fine." Yeah. I love those two.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to overlook, of course, the very important line where he says, "My name is John Silver and I have a long fucking memory." So,
yeah. There was a lot of talk in those in that conversation with Dufresne about memory and who's already forgotten and who will be forgotten. And yeah.
No, it was perfect. And, you know, we all know where those words are leading.
Yes, we do. Gosh.
But yeah, I feel like, you know, since the end of season 2, it was impossible for me to talk about anything Silver does or anything that changes him without thinking about this scene. Like once you've seen this scene, you never unsee it. You see Silver's arc in completely different terms.
You're absolutely right about that. Yeah.
Once you've seen this scene, once you know, and again, we have no idea. He's got stuff ahead of him still, a lot of stuff, really interesting stuff in the next 3 episodes. But also, we have no idea what's going to be in season 4. I'm a little terrified.
Yeah.
And yet, I mean, this is also, we've seen all of these interesting intersections and parallels between him and Flint. And okay, he's not killing someone we love here. It's not like when Flint killed Gates. But in a lot of ways, this is way more terrifying than any time we've seen Flint kill someone. And still, as terrifying as I find Silver in this scene, it's almost like I love him more than I ever did. Because I know what brought him here.
Yeah.
What brought him here was loyalty and community and the crown, all the stuff we talked about last episode, where we talked about, you know, he's tending.
Yeah.
It's the tending to his people that brought him to this dark place. Okay, well, and now we'll talk about his discussion about darkness.
Yes. God, this is so good. This might be my second favorite Silver and Flint conversation. Yeah. We haven't gotten to my first favorite. We'll get there.
Yes.
That's everybody's first favorite who has seen the show. Yeah.
There are a lot of good ones, but
there are a lot of good ones.
Okay, but first, before that, I just want to talk about how Maddie still doesn't know what happened, but she watches Dooley reenacting it on the deck, which is somehow equally terrifying.
Yeah. Yep.
And I kind of love that Flint asks her if she was there, like the two of them kind of, I don't know, it's just like a nice moment of the two people who care about Silver.
Yeah, it is actually.
Possibly in different ways or to different extents, but there is an element.
Ask if she was there?
He wants to know what happened.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's what it is. I think he's legitimately concerned. Like, okay, let's talk about their conversation, because I do think Flint has mixed motivations in this conversation. Okay, so he comes in and he says, "Are you all right?" And then Silver's just like talking about the leg. And he says he didn't feel it. I feel like it's pretty obvious he did, but I'm sure on some level he didn't feel it, actually, because of just adrenaline.
All the adrenaline,
And then Flint's like, "I wasn't talking about the leg."
Yep, which is great.
And then Flint, always a little too late. Flint chooses to open up to Silver a little bit about his own cost to his self. About, what does he call it? He says the toll of playing the part, and what losing Miranda and what losing Miranda led him to.
Yes.
And then Silver says that he perceived the effects. He assumed that there was sorrow and loneliness and terror at the thing he was becoming. And then he says the terrifying part. He says, one
Yeah.
element of the journey into the dark I only now beginning to appreciate is how good it feels.
Ooh.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Gives me goosebumps.
Yes. Okay. So how much is everyone being sincere here, and how much is this a power struggle?
Oh, no, I think it's sincerity.
You think it's all sincerity?
I do think it's all sincerity.
That's always
Yep.
been my reading until recently. The reason why I asked the question is because of the scene before with Billy. Because Billy, with his thing about ghost stories, he shifted the power. And
over to Silver.
And both of them noticed it. Both of them noticed it.
Oh, gosh, Daphne. That's very good.
So, is Flint opening up to Silver to try to, like, level out the vulnerability here? Mm-hmm. And is Silver saying, yeah, I don't really want to do that anymore? It's an option. It is
an option.
It's a possibility in what's happening here. It's a very recent interpretation for me.
Wow. I like that very much, though, Daphne. I'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of want to watch the scene a few more times to see how much I think that's true. But I think it works. I mean, I watched it. I think 3 times this week with that interpretation in mind, and thought, that actually could be what's going on here. Like, I think possibly both. I mean, these are very complex people who are dealing with weighty crowns and complex feelings towards each other. So it's very possible that Flint is. I mean, again, the part with Maddie, I feel like he was showing concern. I think he is. I think it's very possible that Flint can, at the same moment, be concerned for Silver's well-being, emotional and physical, but here mostly emotional. And at the same time, trying to add an element to the conversation that levels the playing field again. I think, we've seen Flint do stuff like that before. I think he can actually be totally doing both of those things at the same time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, he sure could be.
And Silver also, I think, has a lot of things going on, because when he says how good it feels, it's a terrifying sentiment, but he also has so many complex emotions going on in his face when he says it. I mean, I think part of him is exhilarated. Part of him maybe doesn't want to relinquish power back to Flint that was just handed to him. And part of him, as we know from last episode, is terrified.
Yeah.
And, that is a totally human thing, to be excited and afraid of something at the same time. Sometimes, actually, those two things go so well hand in hand, because if you're so excited about something, then you might be losing control about it.
That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on in this episode.
There's a lot going on. Yep. Complicated characters.
Before we get to Rogers and Flint, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Maddie in that courtyard. When she came to the tavern to meet with Emma to get the weapons.
Okay. Yes.
There are 2 things that are really interesting to me in this conversation. One is Emma asks where her father is.
Yeah.
And the first thing she says is, he's fine. And then she pauses and she says, he's dying.
Yeah.
And I never quite understood that, but my new interpretation of that is that perhaps this is Maddie choosing to try to find the type of leader she wants to be. Like, this is the first time she's been without her mother.
Right, because her mother would just say he's fine.
Exactly, because her mother would just be about protecting everyone and not, you know what I mean? The same kind of, well, it's not paternalism because she's a woman, but that same kind of, like, protect.
I think a woman can still have paternalism.
Okay.
Yeah, so in that kind of role anyway.
Right,
yeah,
that same kind of protecting, like, protecting the way you would of children.
Right.
And perhaps, I mean, again, we already saw with the way Maddie talk to Silver that perhaps her leadership style will be a little bit more honest, a little bit more allowing people to revere her without having her need to be on quite as high a pedestal.
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense.
So that was, that was my thought about that. But then the thought that has always occurred to me about this is her talking about Eleanor. And,
how they used to be playmates.
Right.
And you think of how much time Scott got to spend with Eleanor that she did not get to spend. Yeah, it's a shame.
There's that element. I also want to bring this to Max.
It is reminiscent of Max's story,
right.
isn't it?
It is reminiscent of Max's story that she was a little girl who was enslaved, playing with a little white girl who had a very different life and who, on some level, they shared a father.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt like this is a really great. It's just a really, if we look at these three women, they're three women who had these interesting parallels in their childhood stories.
Mm-hmm.
And all our leaders, and again, back to what I said last time, like that it just will be a really interesting thing perhaps at the end to like talk about different leadership styles and just comparing Maddie to Maddie who was taken out of being enslaved at a young age and then trained to be a leader versus Max, who we'll assume was an enslaved person for a longer period of her life and then aspired to power, possibly for very different reasons, and also was not trained for the role.
Yeah.
And but both of them having this commonality of being in contact or connected to a white girl who was not enslaved and who was getting all of the benefits that the enslaved girl was denied.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's a very powerful choice that they made to have Maddie discuss this and then talk about how they were going to be at war with each other.
Yes.
Okay. Ready to go to that beach?
I am. Yeah, this is a gorgeous scene.
This scene is incredible.
Rogers just impresses me so much. I mean, every new scene, I just like him more and more. And I feel like that's impossible because I liked him from the beginning. He first walked on screen and I was like, I don't want to like him, but I do.
Yep.
And every time I see him, he's just so impressive. He's so competent. I love now that we're getting vulnerability from him. I love his love for Eleanor.
That's interesting because he kind of fucks up here.
Go ahead. Okay.
Well, first of all, what I love most about this scene is just the incredible, again,
the visuals are gorgeous.
This is where the many, many, many rewatches is really helpful. So I'm sorry that you didn't allow yourself that, because this might be my favorite Toby Stephens scene.
He's so good. You see so much James McGraw in him in this scene.
Yeah, there's a lot of
How
subtlety.
did that happen again?
Well, because the first thing that Rogers said is Lord Thomas Hamilton. That's how it happened.
I wrote, and he keeps saying it. He keeps saying Thomas Hamilton. I'm like, stop saying Thomas Hamilton.
But this is what I'm saying, that he fucked up.
Yes. Okay, that is true. He didn't know.
He wants Flint to take a pardon.
Yes.
He comes into this meeting thinking that he has this amazing information from Eleanor that will be useful to him to convince Flint that they're the same.
Yeah.
And he has no idea that saying Thomas Hamilton's name over and over again is the worst thing he could do right now.
The worst thing he could do. Yep.
And I love it. He says it the first time, and if you look really closely, like, it's so subtle because Flint's so busy, being controlled and doing pirate theater right now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But there's this subtle moment when he says it. Flint looks a little bit to the side, and his
I saw it.
Eyes go a little unfocused, and it's so subtle.
Toby Stephens.
I know. If you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
But it's so there. I mean, he's doing everything he can to show no reaction, but it's just like daggers every time he says it. So he says that, right. And see, nobody even knows that Thomas Hamilton, until Flint says it, nobody knows that Thomas Hamilton died because of what he was trying to do. That's not the story. The story is he went mad because his wife was cheating on him. That's the story everyone knows.
Yeah.
So when he says men first into the breach bear the heaviest casualties, he doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't mean it. Rogers doesn't mean like literally you died for this or that he died for this. He just means that it was like a harder road for them. He's just, everything he's saying is the wrong thing to say.
Yeah. No, it's perfectly planned, but he just doesn't know. Yeah.
He doesn't know. He doesn't have all of the information. And at the same time, he's totally right. He says, without Lord Hamilton's efforts, without your efforts. I think here he's trying to actually flatter Flint.
I don't even know if he's trying to flatter him so much as he's just...
Well, he's trying to make that connection.
Make the connection.
He says, I am now what you were then. Without you, there would be no me.
Clever. Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Clever.
The clever and the thank you is just such a gorgeous exchange.
Right. No, that is
so
gorgeous.
Good. It's delightful.
Alongside of all of Flint's hurt, he totally is recognizing this person. He does recognize Woodes Rogers. They do both recognize what a formidable foe they have. But
what does he say? I'm no backwater magistrate.
Yep, exactly. Oh yeah, he didn't need to say that. Flint knew.
Yep. Flint knew as soon as he saw him sitting on that beach.
I know.
He saw
That's
that
so
great
true.
crooked smile, that smirk come over his face.
Right. And he explained it to everyone when he was still on the walrus. He's just like, what does he say? He says he holds them away with their shame.
With their shame. Oh, that's right. He used the shame word.
He did use the shame
word. I love
word.
this show. Yep.
So Rogers says something that seems very reasonable, and we've talked about this. He says, he's always forgiven as you wanted, as Thomas Hamilton wanted. What are you fighting for that I'm not already offering?
Yeah.
And once upon a time, Flint would have taken him up on that.
Once upon a time. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I love that Flint tells him. Yeah. Says that, tells him exactly why. England takes, I won't submit to her anymore.
Yep.
She's shown me her face. Is that what he says? Something like that? Shown me her character, something to that idea.
She's shown herself to me all gray and gnarled.
All gray and gnarled, which again is so great because it's a really, it's a very poetic line. And again, in the hands of a clumsier actor, it would come off cumbersome and clunky and it would look overwritten. But Toby Stephens just sends it home so beautifully. God, he's good.
Well, and I like also that he brings up that what Woodes Rogers is offering isn't exactly what Thomas was offering. That Thomas had a purpose.
That is true. He had a bigger purpose. Right. Yeah, that was about changing the way that England saw things, or changing the culture of England, basically.
Right.
I forget what he said.
Right.
But very different from this, which is just bringing it under submission, which is not the plan that Hamilton had. Yeah.
It's almost like what Rogers is offering is kind of like the empty shell of the content of what Thomas Hamilton and James McGraw wanted to do. So this kind of answers the question we've had all along, is like, and the question he had himself when he was in that cage on the island of like, wait a minute, he himself said, isn't this what I was fighting for all along? Why don't I just step aside?
Yes.
And now I think this coalition, when he said those words to the Queen, I think he realized really what he's for, like really what he stands for now. Mm-hmm. And that's what he's saying to Woodes Rogers. He's just like, this wasn't just about pardons.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So and I love it. He says, I'm through seeking anything from England except her departure from my island. Yeah. And that's when Rogers brings up the villain thing again. And he says...
Yes, which is so good.
I know.
This is the same thing that Flint said when he was up there with Vane in Charlestown. It's the same idea.
Oh, it's almost identical wording.
It's almost identical lines, yeah, except it's villain instead of monster. Mm-hmm. Yep, and that does show Flint again. Okay, I met my match. Yep,
exactly.
This is what I'm dealing with here.
Right, I've met my match, and he is kind of me in so many ways.
Yes. Yeah, he's the other side of that coin, isn't he?
Yes, right. I love that. I love, and I love seeing, like, it's just so interesting after we saw Woodes Rogers, his kind of verbal sparring with Jack, and his verbal sparring with Flint is so different because Jack was trying. Jack came in with his, his book reviews and his this and his that. Like, Jack was being showy about it.
Yeah.
And Flint is just like sitting in his chair, basically like, yeah, you prove yourself to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I reject it. You know, it's just like he's just like, okay, you said your thing. What is it you said? Like you said almost the same thing with Woodes Rogers in relation to Jack. Like, what'd you say? Oh, your floor show. You did your floor show, and now.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's almost like Flint did that to Woodes Rogers. Like he let him lay out his little plan, his little techniques here of trying to show commonality, and he's like, okay, floor show over.
Yep.
Let me tell you what's what here. And that's our story, I think, for this episode.
That was it. Yeah, and it was so good. Yep. Bring it on. I'm ready to see where we're going. I'm excited for the big showdown on the island. Mm-hmm. They're laying things out beautifully for us.
Yes, for all of our first time watchers, just the next 3 episodes are insane.
So does that bring us now to our thesis statement?
Yes.
All right.
Ready to guns! Full complement!
All right. So we think, we hypothesize that there will be quite a few of our listeners who are going to get this thesis statement because it's pretty nail on the head.
Really, I feel like this one, they were just bringing it all home to the thesis
Laid
statement.
It right out there for
yep,
you. Mm-hmm.
Yep. We're all villains in NASA.
Agreed. Cheers.
We are all villains in NASA.
Mm-hmm. So true. Everyone is somebody's villain. I love it. It's so good.
Yes, everyone is somebody's villain. Everyone's becoming villains. Everyone can't help themselves but be a villain
it's
here.
So true. Yep. And I think we pretty much gave it away, but just real quick to fangirl a little bit. Favorite part, Daphne?
Oh, I forgot to think about that.
Oh.
Well, no. Okay. Yeah, it's true.
Exactly. I was
yeah,
like, come on.
You're right. Yeah, silver stomping. That's my favorite
silver
part.
stomp.
Oh my
Man,
goodness.
So cool.
Actually, okay, no, I want to be more specific. It is, like I said, it's silver after. Silver
afterwards.
Silver
taking the breath and composing himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And when he lifts those eyes, it's really when he lifts those eyes. When he lifts his eyes.
Well done, Luke Arnold.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, Luke Arnold, you are the most amazing and terrifying and wonderful.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah.
And for me, it would be Woodes Rogers and Eleanor and them becoming vulnerable to one another and gaining intimacy together and that gorgeous, gorgeous sex scene. Yeah, I liked it.
So we basically predicted each other's favorite thing.
We did. Yep. No surprises here. We might know each other a little bit. That's okay.
We might have a sense of each other. Not just know each other personally, know each other in relation to Black Sails at this point.
In relation to Black Sails. So true.
All right. We have 2 people from last week.
Uh-huh.
Our 2 people who got last week's thesis statement correct are Scorpion. Oh, she changed her name to Scorpion Pierce.
She did. Scorpion Pierce right away. It makes me so happy when people change their Twitter handle when they give them a pirate name. Yeah.
So yes, Scorpion 80, aka Scorpion Pierce. You are now a bosun.
Well done.
2 weeks in a row. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who else?
Who else?
Stormy Morley.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
She gets to take another ship, right?
She gets to take another ship. Yep.
Okay. Well, all right. What's a good ship name for her to take? She's already got the Tempest. So, the Tempest is Shakespeare. So let's give her another Shakespeare boat, huh? So with the Shakespeare theme, she'll have the Tempest, and let's give her the Verona.
All right.
Verona. I like that.
Very good.
2 Gentlemen of Verona and also Romeo and Juliet. So that's a pretty good one. Yeah.
That's a fabulous one.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this week. So until next time, from Common Room Radio, I am Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
Fathoms Deep is a Common Room Radio production. For more information and access to other programs, please visit us at commonroomradio.com. To show your support, pledges of as little as $1 a month can be made to patreon.com/commonroomradio. Join the conversation by using the hashtag Fathoms Deep and follow us on Twitter at Black Salescast. We ask that you keep your tweets respectful and positive, and please avoid spoilers. If you have more to say, we want to hear it in all its spoiler glory. Email us at podcast@commonroomradio.com with Fathoms Deep in the subject line. Thanks for listening. Ready the guns. Say it for me, Daphne.
Full complement.
You're the best, and I love you. Yes. Okay. Oh, that delights me. Okay.